All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fly Eagles Fly podcast. I'm your host, JT, Jason Thomas, and I'm going to be taking you through some topics today. Not too much happened in the realm of like Eagles sphere, I guess you could say. It's more like broad scheme stuff. So I'm going to take you through some stuff today. So we're going to talk about OTAs a little bit. Not too much to talk about. Bird started OTAs a few days ago. Chris Sims, we're going to talk about his rankings of the top 40 quarterbacks. And then we're also going to go through some division standings. But before we kick it off, I want to say rest in peace to a legend, somebody that I grew up watching a lot. I watched some Terras, the Eagles. We're talking about Marion the Barbarian Barber. Don't know why, but the Frisco police down in Texas found him deceased in his apartment. So we want to give condolences out to his family and everyone connected, because that's, it's awful. It sucks. But so we want to give condolences to him, and with the greatest 2-yard run ever against the Patriots. So, hey, credit where credit's due, my man. Salute to you. Hopefully, his family and friends are doing well. Condolences to them. But so let's go ahead and talk about the Birds and OTAs. So number one, Brandon Graham's back. That's obviously the biggest thing for OTAs. Brandon Graham has been an integral part of the Philadelphia Eagles defense for a long time. And so it's cool to see him back in action. He tore his Achilles last year. I believe it was against the Chargers. And obviously, when you tear your Achilles, that's it. It's a wrap. It's done. So he's back. Finally, he has no limitations. He should be ready to go for the season. So fingers crossed. That's the only good news coming out of this year. Hopefully, no injuries and stuff like that. Nobody's banged up. So it was good to see James Bradbury was there at OTAs. He had Jalen Hurts with the shades on. So. Not really too much to talk about there. I haven't watched OTAs. I haven't been out there. Not that I have any access to go out there anyway, but yeah, that's about it for OTAs. Now, what I really want to talk about, and kind of the beef that I have with this, is, if you guys aren't familiar with Chris Sims, he spent some time as a quarterback in the NFL. He was a backup for most of his career. He had a starting season under John Gruden with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers early on in the 2000s. He is the son, however, of a Giants great in Phil Sims. So he gets a lot of work. He's an analyst for Sunday Night Football and things like that. I think it's on NBC. He's an analyst there, and he'll take you through some quarterback play. Now, it's cool to watch him break down certain plays. That's cool, because it's like, you hear a quarterback talking about what's supposed to be happening, where the ball's supposed to be going, is really cool. Just like hearing anybody that played a position break down that position is actually really cool. So that's what he does. That's where he works. And he also does these periodic top 40 quarterbacks heading into the 2022 season. And mind you, these aren't projected, right? Like, they are the top guy going into the season. If the season started tomorrow, these are the top guys. And he ranked Jalen Hurts at 25, right? The issue is not where he's ranked. The issue is who he's ranked behind. So number one, it's Daniel Jones at 21, Zach Wilson at 22, Justin Fields at 23, Trevor Lawrence at 24, and then obviously Hurts at 25. Now, I understand the Trevor Lawrence thing a little bit more. Reason being, yes, Trevor Lawrence threw 17 interceptions last year, 12 touchdowns to 17 picks. He was a rookie, and he didn't really have a great offensive line, right? Did not have a lot working for him. The roster is much better now heading into the season than it is like when the season started last year, and sort of what he was thrust into as a rookie. And on top of that, the coach he had is fired now, right? Doug Peterson's the head coach. So there was some dysfunction there. You have to look at that. I get the Trevor Lawrence pick a little bit more, but the fact that Trevor Lawrence is behind Justin Fields and Zach Wilson to me, I look at Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. They're way more natural throwers of the football. Obviously, we know Zach Wilson, can throw its sidearm, 40 yards. So obviously they're more talented, but they have more in the department of naturally being able to throw the football. But to me, they both have the same issues that Jalen Hurts does, which is, they're skittish. They run out of the pocket too much. They're trying to do too much. They're trying to force the ball in. I will say the difference between Zach Wilson and Hurts is that Zach Wilson has the ability to push the ball down the field in terms of arm strength. Now, there is some questions about that with Hurts. Can he consistently push the ball downfield? Can he consistently beat man coverage? Those are things that are general questions that you should answer. If you're a franchise quarterback, you should be able to do X, Y, and Z. And that makes sense, right? But to me, Justin Fields has the same exact problems. The same exact problems that Jalen Hurts does. He runs too much, or the same critiques that someone would have for Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields has as well. There are some deep ball issues. There are some issues with him throwing too or running too early, leaving throws out there on the field. So to me, I don't know why you would have Justin Fields 2 spots higher, but he's essentially the same thing as Jalen Hurts, but with a more natural throwing motion. So to me, I think that's kind of ridiculous. And the glaring issue is Daniel Jones, right? Like all those other picks is kind of nitpicky. Like I said, you're kind of nitpicking between all these second-year quarterbacks. And technically, Jalen Hurts is a third-year quarterback with his second season starting. So you can sort of nitpick up and down the list. But Daniel Jones, dog? Like you're putting Daniel Jones, who's been in the league for 20 years, it feels like, and has done virtually nothing, right? Every time he plays, he's just it's unbelievable, right? It's truly unbelievable how much people still are on the coattails of Daniel Jones. It's crazy. It's nuts. Like I don't understand how the Giants, how the front office like really truly can sit there and justify keeping Daniel Jones as a quarterback. Now, here's a preface. He may go out this year and ball because the Giants have never really had a good offensive line. They have a decent offensive line. They have a lot of good pieces. He may go out next year and he may ball, right? But if you're looking at the past and you're trying to project into the future, right? And this is not top 40 young quarterbacks that are going to be around. This is, if the season started tomorrow, these are the 40 quarterbacks that are on there. And you're talking backups, you're talking starters. So if the season starts tomorrow, what indication do you have that Daniel Jones is going to be better this year than he was last year? What's the indication? Like where's the growth? You know what I'm saying? Because the Giants did nothing virtually in terms of free agent signings, right? They've done not a whole lot of free agent signings. They had a great draft, which I said before on here, but there's no indication. They got better as a team, but Daniel Jones did not directly benefit from, and maybe from Evan Neal, he's going to directly benefit because Evan Neal's going to be able to protect him, right? But the dude still, like, I don't know. I don't see why you would have, and the number of spots. So you're saying that there are, it's not like Jalen Hurts, like the Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts thing. Trevor Lawrence is 24, Jalen Hurts is 25. I understand that, right? Now, if you're projecting into the future, I see why you would put Trevor Lawrence above Jalen Hurts because Trevor Lawrence is one of the best prospects to come into the quarterback prospects to come into the league in recent memory. But I don't understand the Daniel Jones thing. I mean, yeah, the dude can run. He has a little wiggle to him. But outside of like a couple flash in the pan moments, Daniel Jones is just Carson Wentz 2.0, right? Like he has a lot of things going for him, but he hasn't been able to actually put it together. At least Carson put it together for a year, right? For 1 year, he put it together. Daniel Jones didn't. Daniel Jones has not put together a solid season for him to be ranked 4 spots above Jalen Hurts, right? And if you are going to say, all right, let's take a look at what they did in the past and what they did now. Chris Sims didn't even rank Jalen Hurts last year, right? He wasn't even on there. Daniel Jones was. I'm pretty sure Daniel Jones was on the 2021 top 40 quarterbacks, right? Daniel Jones didn't make the playoffs that year. Jalen Hurts made the playoffs that year. And you still, 2022 top 40 best quarterbacks, you still put Daniel Jones above Jalen. It's ridiculous to me. And I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts is going to be a world beater. I'm not even saying Jalen Hurts is going to be the starter for the next 10 years. Who knows? But based on the knowledge that he said, and Chris Sims, when he presented that, he said, I looked at Jalen Hurts last year and I thought that he made a couple plays, but never did I think he was the guy. But you looked at Daniel Jones and said, okay, he's the guy. Daniel Jones didn't even get his 5th-year option picked up by the Giants. The Giants don't even believe in him. You see what I'm saying? Like, the Eagles went all in to help Jalen Hurts. The Giants didn't even go all in to help this man. They're in a complete rebuild again after drafting a quarterback. So gotta relax. So that's my nitpick for the day. All right, is the fact that Daniel Jones continues to just be this apparition that everyone thinks is going to become this great quarterback. Now, I may eat my words. You may come back to this. The interwebs may come back to this moment and say, "Hey, look at what you said. Look at what happened." The viewers, you guys listening and watching, you may come back and you may be Giants fans or whatever, right? I know Jers may be Giants fan. The boy Jers Hedson, right? Shout out to the boy. But if you could watch this and then he takes off this year, and I admit that I was wrong. And I'll admit it to you. I'll tell you, hey, I was wrong. But as of right now, basing it on the 4+ years of tape that we have, Daniel Jones is not a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, right? And so the best way to transition now, we can talk about some free agent stuff. There is, excuse me. It was really gross. Sorry. I'm fighting. I got like bad allergies, bro. Like really bad allergies. And I'm exposed to COVID. Don't worry. Nobody's here. Like there's nobody around me or anything. I'm by myself, but, there was a COVID exposure. I feel fine, but my mom did get COVID. So she's quarantined. She's feeling better though. So, but I still got this sort of lingering like sniffles and all that stuff, right? Even though I feel fine and I don't have like a temperature or anything. So, but yeah, one thing that I did see before I came down, which was the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill was sort of insinuating that the Chiefs had, excuse me, that the Chiefs were to blame for the reason why he left. And I sort of understand where he's coming from, because on one hand, it's like you want to play as a Chief. You have a better, like if we're talking about odds, you have a better odd to be more successful as a Chief than you do right now as a Dolphin, right? Because the Dolphins don't even really know if Tua is going to be their guy. They're going all in, which I think is awesome. Ryan Fitzpatrick just retired though, so Fitzmagic always seems to do the best against the Eagles for some reason. Every time he plays the Eagles, he balls out. So that's a little upsetting. But anyway, he said, I keep wanting to call him Cheetah. Tyreek Hill, that's his nickname. Tyreek Hill was insinuating that it was the Chiefs' fault that he left the organization. Now, objectively, again, like I said, you have a better chance of winning and being more successful as a Chief in terms of accolades. But I think the Chiefs were probably the best spot for him. But he wanted to be the highest paid wide receiver, which I'm not going to tell anybody to. I'll never advocate for someone not taking money, right? Like I think that if you're playing the game, you should get the most out of you should get the most money, right? Like we're literally paying you to smash your head against other people, push your body to the limit, and you should get your money, get paid, whatever, right? I don't hate that. I think that's great for him. I think it's great that he can take care of his family. He generated this generational wealth, that we all talk about. But at the end of the day, if we're talking about if you're looking at your career, right? Money aside, which is the only reason he left, but money aside, if you're looking at it in a vacuum and you said on one hand, I'm playing with one of the best quarterbacks in recent history in Patrick Mahomes, right? I'm playing against, some of the best competition, right? And I'm also, my numbers are crazy when I'm playing with Patrick Mahomes because he's nuts, right? You can throw the ball a mile, We all know Patrick Mahomes. If you're a sports fan, you know Patrick Mahomes, right? And you know what he brings to the table. So objectively, if I'm a wide receiver, I want to go to Patrick Mahomes. I want to play with the best quarterbacks. I want to go to the Bradys and the Mahomes and the Rodgers and, even some of the younger guys, like the Kyler Murray. And I want to go play with those guys because I know that I'm going to get mine. Those guys like to throw the ball. The coaching staff wants them to throw the ball. I know I'm going to get mine, right? And I can leverage that into, hey, look what I did last year. This is what I think I should be paid. So I get it. I get it. But objectively speaking, right, the Chiefs were kind of the best of both worlds where he was going to be able to get his, right? He was going to be able to get all the crazy numbers, all the touchdowns and receptions and yards, and he was going to have an opportunity to really compete for a Super Bowl again, year after year. So for me personally, right, again, I'm not saying don't take any money, but for me personally, I'm looking at that and I'm saying I have an opportunity to cement myself as one of the best. Like, you're looking at Joe Montana, Jerry Rice territory if you can keep the team together, right? That's personally, what I would do. But again, I'm not going to tell anybody not to go get their money. But at the end of the day, I'm just saying, for my preference, of course, the Chiefs, they're not going to be able to retain you, if you want that kind of money, because they have a $500 million contract lingering over their head. Then on top of that, they have to sign Travis Kelce. So it was going to come between Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. That's what it was going to come down to. So ultimately, the Chiefs said, look, we're going to rock with Kelce. They go in to get Juju Smith-Schuster. They had a really good draft. Sky Moore, I believe his name is, who's another speedster. So, they said we have in order to stay competitive, we're going to have to sign one guy, right? And we're going to have to keep him around, and then we're going to be able to sort of plug everything else in. So, yeah, I can't fault either party, for feeling the way they feel, but get your money, dude. But objectively speaking, you were probably set up for more success with the Chiefs, and now with the Dolphins, you're probably walking into a rebuild. You're walking into possibly, you know what I'm saying? Like, just you're walking into a rebuild. You're walking into just a whole different situation now in Miami. So I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit. I didn't really prepare for it. I just kind of went off the cuff, which is why there was a lot of ums and and ooh, right, all that shit. So that's my sort of take on that. And it was just like a snippet, like it was a little podcast snippet. Maybe it was just a throwaway thing. I actually didn't see it. So maybe you just kind of said it as a joke or a throwaway, and we're just kind of taking it seriously because it's the off season and we want to talk about ball, but there's like not enough happening and, all these different things. So, but as you know, speaking of the Chiefs, speaking of them and every team, I'm going to do my division standings 1.0. I actually saw this on Zach Schomler's Strong Opinion Sports, so shout out to him. I'm a big fan of his, but he did who's the best team in every division. I'm not going to do exactly that, but I'm going to do like a rankings for each division, and then I'll do a 1.0, I'll do a 2.0, probably I'll try to do one every month until I'll do a final prediction before the season starts or something, and that'll be what I bank on. But don't you, do what you want with these rankings, but these are just the way I feel. And this is kind of pretty standard. And as things go on, as unfortunate things like, maybe injuries will happen or whatever, then things like this will change. But this is just as it stands right now. Most teams are, semi-healthy. Some guys are still banged up, coming back, whatever. But, damn, I forgot what I was going to say. Some guys are still banged up and coming back or whatever. But I'm going to get into the standings, the division standings 1.0, who I think is going to win the division, come first, second, third, fourth, and so on and so forth. So division standings, we're going to start with the NFC East because this is the Eagles podcast. I say Dallas is going to finish number one. The reason I say Dallas is going to finish first in the division, without predicting records because that's a little bit rough, I will say that Dallas is going to finish because they have a proven quarterback. Now, I think the Eagles have had a better offseason, better draft than Dallas has, but Dallas is still proven. You know what I mean? Their weaknesses are on the offensive line. I feel as if though they're on the offensive line, and they're loaded at linebacker. Wide receivers looking a little thin, but they've bolstered their strengths, and that's all you can really hope for, right? Bolster your strengths, and hopefully they cover your weaknesses, right? So Dallas number one, Eagles number two. Again, based on the roster, we got better in all the right areas. We drafted two young studs out of Georgia, one out of Wisconsin. I mean, I think this draft class is very, very good, and the amount of value that Howie Roseman was able to get deep into the rounds was unreal. You know, to get Nakobe Dean in the third round is nuts. When he was projected as a first rounder, pretty much since Georgia won the title, they were saying he's going to go number one, or be the first linebacker off the board. But yeah, so I thought that was great. Nakobe Dean, again, like I said, Jordan Davis, stud, huge guy, kind of Fletcher Cox's replacement. But I think the Eagles sort of moved up to the second spot, and it's all really A.J. Brown. It's going to depend on how well Jalen Hurts plays, but I think he plays well enough to sort of eke into that second place spot on the NFC East, maybe even into a wild card weekend situation. Then the third, I got Washington. I don't think Carson Wentz is the answer in Washington, to be honest with you. Carson Wentz is a guy that I've been a brutal defender of. He has all the tangibles, right? He's a huge person. He could throw the ball well, but for some reason it just doesn't translate on the field like it should at times. And I think Washington is a pretty good defense. I just think that the amount of firepower that the Eagles and the Cowboys are bringing, it's going to be pretty serious. And all these teams again have invested in their offensive lines, right? And so that's what I'm looking at. I think Washington is third, and then fourth is New York. They had a great draft, but the core of that team is just not really clicking. You know, the quarterback is not really there. The offensive line hasn't really been there. You know, to me, Saquon has been injured, and he really has never had a good offensive line to run behind until probably this year. So, unfortunately, you know, and Saquon's a guy that I went to high school with, so I'm really rooting for him to have another crazy year, which, you know, we all know he's capable of doing, but it's all going to come down. He can't block, too. Like, he can't get the ball, block, and then run, too. But I got New York finishing last in the division, as per usual. So that's my NFC East rankings. NFC West, I got the Rams, number one, reigning Super Bowl champions. And this is the first season that squad was all together. So it's not like you have, this was like the third season and they finally got it to click. First season they're all together and they go and they win a bowl. So I think they're going to do it back to back? I don't know. That's tough, but at the same time, they already have the formula there, and if Matt Stafford can just kind of continue to be Matt Stafford, they don't need him to do everything because the roster is so good. But if he can make all the throws and just sort of have a good season like he did last year, then I don't foresee anybody really stopping the Rams. 49ers, I have going second. Now, the reason I have the 49ers second is this may switch between the Cardinals and the Niners. Reason being is because the 49ers, to me, have a really good roster, right? The roster's better. And Arizona, Kyler Murray, there's rumors that he's going to hold out. So for right now, I'm going to put the proven commodity that's there, and Trey Lance is likely to be the starting quarterback. And then Arizona may have to run with a backup, you know, or something like that if Kyler does hold out, which that's kind of what I'm basing this off of. And again, I'll do one next month. This is June. So in next month, I'll do one maybe in July. and maybe they sign him to, this crazy deal, and then Arizona could easily slide in that second spot. But for right now, I got 49ers there because they're predicated on running the football. Trey Lance is not going to have to come up and throw the ball 50 times a game to keep them in the game. The run game does that for them. They open up a lot of space. They have a really, really good offensive line, a really good defensive line. They're really stacked. And if they can just get the quarterback situation squared away, then I think they can compete with the Rams for the number one spot. Then third is obviously Arizona because, like I mentioned, the Kyler Murray incident. If Kyler Murray comes back, then obviously they jump up to the second in the division because they very nearly won the division last year. Had a crazy, crazy start to the year. Flew, immediately into the season, started hot. And again, just the question is the quarterback, if Kyler Murray is going to resign or if he's going to hold out. So that's kind of the only question in my mind. But for right now, he's still holding out at 2:09 on June 2nd on Thursday. He is holding out. As it seems, he has not reported to OTAs. So that's why they're third to me. And even though he's not currently right now, it looks like he's going to hold out. They're still third, and Seattle is going to come in last to me. I think the only thing keeping Seattle afloat was Russell Wilson. Drew Lock is not going to bring the same. He's not going to bring he doesn't bring the same deck of cards to the table, right? That Russell Wilson did. DK Metcalf is obviously there. They have weapons. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, now Noah Fant. So they have weapons there, but to me, I think it's very disguised how not good the Seahawks have been in the draft. I mean, the Seahawks have not been able to draft well in the first round. Obviously, they picked up DK in the second, but in the first round, they're not able to draft well. They're not able to draft these like super studs or whatever. They pass up. It's always some kind of weird pick. You know what I mean? Like it's always some kind of like dude that's fringe that you're like, oh, like he's good, but he has potential, but he's this, but you know what I mean? Like it's always some fringe dude that they take in the first round. They overreach and they pick him, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But late round drafting, the Seahawks have been great. DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, they've been great later into the rounds. And again, they just have never been able to build an offensive line, right? That's a big reason why Russell Wilson's a Bronco now, because the Broncos have a good offensive line. The Seahawks never did. They never surrounded Russ with a good offensive line. Although they did give him pretty decent weapons, they just were never able to. They were never able to give him what he really wanted. And then Pete Carroll has this dinosaur style of offense where he's like, we're going to run the ball and we're going to stop and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. It's like, listen, Pete, like that's not really where the NFL's going, my man. Like I got a lot of respect for the coaches, and I probably know, I don't know shit compared to a lot of these guys, but not a lot of these guys, compared to all these guys, I don't know shit. But even me, right, as somebody that barely stood on the sidelines for high school football, even I see like that's kind of a dinosaur way of playing, and even the 49ers mix it up. Even the 49ers have pass plays and their roster is structured for it. It's not a time. It's not the 2020s and like the mid 2010s. This is not the time to have like a smash mouth ball team, that has these, these 5 like 350-pound guys on the front that are just going to bulldoze people out of the way. It's not working. There's one team that's doing that, and we're going to talk about them a little bit later in Tennessee, but those guys, I mean, that's Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry continues on this, he's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. I mean, because he's just ridiculous, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, Seattle, I think, is going to be last. Drew Lock is not, their array of quarterbacks are not great. And this might be good because it might be like they're just going to sort of tank. They're in one of the most competitive divisions in football, so let's just tank and let's go see if we can get a Bryce Young. Let's see if we get a crack at one of the young quarterbacks coming out that we can build around. So that we can build around. So let's move on to the NFC North and Green Bay. Green Bay is king of the North right now. Aaron Rodgers is the king of the North, right? The bad man. Green Bay number one. That goes without say. Even without Devontae Adams, I still have faith in Aaron Rodgers. Those other guys are going to have to step up. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is also out of the picture. But again, that doesn't deter who I think is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And he's probably going to have a good, Aaron Rodgers, is going to have a good regular season. But from the time that he gets into like the playoffs, it's going to be a little different. Right. So that's the way I see it. That's the way, I think America sees it. Like he's great in the regular season, and then once you get to the postseason, it's a done deal. He just for some reason just kind of pulls back. But number two is going to be Chicago. I like Chicago a lot. I think Chicago is one of the best young teams coming out of the league. I think that Chicago has a really good young core. David Montgomery, I don't know why I said it like that. David Montgomery, Kendall Fuller, Eddie Jackson. You know what I mean? I don't know if Kendall Fuller is still there. I assume he's still there. If not, I may be wrong. But they have a good young core group of guys, and they've been able to draft pretty well. They did lose Khalil Mack though, which does suck. That's a big impact to them. But I think Chicago's number two. And I'm basing that on the quarterback, on Justin Fields, him taking a big leap, because he played well. He played relatively well. Again, like I mentioned earlier with the Jalen Hurts thing, there are some struggles about him pushing the ball down the field. Consistently beating man coverage with accuracy, or not necessarily the accuracy, but with arm strength and so on and so forth. So I think Chicago's going to be number two. Number three is Minnesota. Now, Minnesota, I think we all sort of have this, the media, even fans kind of have, there's this narrative that the Minnesota's better, than they really are. And to me, Kirk Cousins, he's such an interesting player, because to me, Kirk Cousins is just a little bit more consistent Ryan Fitzpatrick. You know what I'm saying? He's a guy he's just weird, man. I don't really know how to put it. Because there's times where he can put the ball, the dude can spin the football, dude. He can put it, he could put it in some of the tightest windows, right? He could put that thing, between the flea's ass crack sometimes. And then sometimes he is just buns. Sometimes he throws up these absolute duds, right? So it's I don't really understand why he's so inconsistent at times. I have no idea. I don't cover the Vikings in any way. I'm just kind of a casual. If they're on, I'll watch them play. But sometimes, man, they're just weird. But they rely on the run heavily. Dalvin Cook, obviously, whose brother just got drafted. So congrats to that family. Very athletic guys, crazy athletic guys. But I don't know. I have them third, just based on their roster. I think Danielle Hunter's pretty good. A lot of those defensive guys are getting a bit older. They've been around for a long time, been very good for a long time. And just as you get older, it's just what happens. It's just it's what it is. They're getting a little bit older. And as it gets older, as an Eagles fan, I know we all can sort of hang on to guys like Jason Peters, who is an Eagle great, is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. But the dude's super athletic, even as an older guy. But when you get older, man, some of those old injuries, they come back. They're nagging. They don't go away. You try to heal, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So it's tough. It's tough because you can see, what the fuck, bro? Fucking dickheads, dog. Right? Fucking scam likely. Fuck you. All right? Stop calling my phone, right? Asking me about bullshit, son. Right? So anyway, Minnesota, I think those guys are just getting a little bit older. Jason Peters was a guy who was super athletic, but just when those nagging injuries come back, and they just come back full force, and it just sucks. So you feel awful when that happens. But speaking of an Eagles fan who had an old roster, it's what happens, unfortunately. And then last I got Detroit, and because their quarterback, last I got Detroit. Detroit is not interested in winning any games. They're going to have to, really, to me, Detroit, I'm always going to put them last until they can prove that they can be good. So, I don't know. I really like their head coach. I really like how competitive they were coming down to the end of the season. So, there are some good things culturally to look up to in Detroit, but it's almost like Detroit is almost like the Bengals, where it's like you need like a shot in the arm to like wake you up. You need to be like, hey, bro, like let's, you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? We're an NFL franchise. We shouldn't be cool with just chilling at the bottom of the division every year, right? And maybe getting one or two big wins to keep the fan base around, right? Like, we should be able to contest for things. That's why Barry Sanders left. That's why guys like Megatron left. They've had so much good talent. So many Hall of Famers have come through, and they just leave because they're like, that place is not, Detroit is not interested. Not Detroit, the city, but Detroit as like the Lions are not interested in winning. They're not interested in winning football games. They're not interested in winning a championship. They're not interested in that kind of stuff. They just have a team and they sell out tickets every year and they just kind of skate by. So to me, I think it's good that culture looks like it's starting to change, and you sort of need that. And I always compare them to Cincinnati, who was like that for pretty much my whole life until recently. So Detroit is last in the NFC North division. So NFC South, obviously, number one is Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is going to win. Tampa Bay, to me, is still very good. They have a lot of good pieces on defense. They finally put it together, and that's where they're at. Tom Brady's coming back. Is he going to retire again? Is this going to be like, the Brett Favre situation where he's just going to retire in the offseason and then come back and then retire and then come back? Like, who knows? Who knows? Truly, who knows? But I think Tampa Bay is going to be number one. They have the best roster and the best quarterback now in that division. Number two is Atlanta. I have Atlanta up there because I really like, I really, really like what they did. I like what Atlanta has done at the quarterback position. I like that, yes, they lost my man, Matt Ryan, who's a Philly guy. They lost him, but to me, I think that you kind of know that they're going for a little bit of a rebuild. But Marcus Mariota has been very solid. In the few games that he's played, he's been solid. And he's able to sort of move around as well. He's able to, they drafted Desmond Ridder, who, is he going to be the quarterback of the future? Who knows? But he's got a great guy to learn behind, someone that's seen it all, that's a veteran in the game, in Marcus Mariota. So who knows? But I actually have Atlanta coming second, just based off of the roster that they have. Now, for me, like, remember how I said, like, Minnesota has, like, people, that talk about Minnesota have, like, this weird optimism? That's how I am with Atlanta, because I routinely watch them destroy the Eagles, right, and then go on to have shit records. So I'm going to say Atlanta comes second. Now, that may change, right, depending on what I'm about to tell you in a second here. That may change later on, maybe when I do this again in the future. That may change. Maybe I'll swap Atlanta and New Orleans there. Speaking of the New Orleans, I think they're going to come third. And again, I'm basing that on the roster. Now, New Orleans has a good roster, but the coach is gone, right? Sean Payton, the guy that had them go 9-8, when they had a rotational quarterback room where they're pretty much doing quarterback by committee for a long time. I don't think that New Orleans team is going to be as good as people expect it to be. Like, to me, the reason why they were so good is because of Sean Payton, right? They were so good because Sean Payton was like sort of the mastermind behind everything, pulling all the strings and all that stuff. And now with him gone, retired. I don't know who. I think it's his defensive coordinator is going to step up. They're going to have a hell of a defense, but that offense I really worry about. That offense I really do worry about, especially because Jameis Winston, while he's a good quarterback, and I think he has, again, all the physical tools to do whatever. I mean, he can run, he throws the ball a mile. He's just so inconsistent. Like he look at the Green Bay game. Like literally the difference between the first and second games of the season last year were like night and day. Like the dude was 5 touchdowns one game and then 5 interceptions the next game. So it's like, that's kind of what you're kind of getting with Jameis Winston, why the Buccaneers sort of moved off of him. And of course, they had an opportunity to get Tom Brady. So it's like, there's not many quarterbacks that you want to keep over Tom, right? Unless you're the 49ers. Yeah. And the 49ers stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo, and the rest is history. But so I have New Orleans at number 3, and then no shocker, I have Carolina at 4 because nobody knows who the quarterback's going to be. Is it going to be Matt Corral? Are they going to stick with Sam Darnold, who has been very polarizing, very Kirk Cousins-esque, where he's 3-0, and then he all of a sudden just flips it and doesn't do good for the rest of the season, or has a couple good games, and so on and so forth. So I don't know. They're very inconsistent, although the roster, like the meat and potatoes of that team, it's solid. They're young guys. They're very good. They did trade Hassan Reddick to the Eagles, so that's good. That's good for the Eagles, bad for Carolina. I don't know, just because their quarterback situation, their Matt Rule is kind of entering into like the twilight of his tenure with Carolina if he doesn't get his stuff squared away. So yeah, man, like Carolina is very polarizing. They're kind of the biggest bang or bust teams I think I have, because they have a really good, like I said, really good young core, but just really, in certain areas. But either way. That's my rankings for the NFC South. Now that's my rankings for all the NFC. We're going to transition to the AFC, and we're going to start with the AFC East. I think that's going to be Buffalo's division for a long time. People are buying into New England and Mac Jones. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but let me just get through Buffalo, and then I'll talk about Mac Jones. But Buffalo, I think, is obviously the best team from top to bottom in the AFC East, right? One of the best teams from top to bottom in the league. So Josh Allen has been sort of on an arc with Patrick Mahomes, sort of kind of slightly behind him. And that playoff game, boy, was we're never going to see something like that again. I mean, I remember I was up at my grandparents' house, right, at the start of that game. Then we came home. It was the fourth quarter. So I forget who was up. So one of the teams was up, and I was like, oh, well, this is over because, Mahomes had the ball. He's like, oh, Mahomes is going to go down and score, and that's going to be it. Boy, was I wrong, right? I sat down, and we watched that fourth quarter overtime comeback situation for like another 20 minutes. Like me and my dad were sitting there like freaking out watching this game. I mean, it was, oh my God, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was the craziest thing I think craziest game, overtime, whatever, that I've ever seen in my life. Truly. And both of those guys were absolutely perfect. So to me, Josh Allen is, outside of going to the AFC West, is probably the best quarterback in almost any division outside of the NFC South and the AFC West. So to me, Buffalo is number 1. Number 2, I do have New England. Now, the reason I have New England at number 2 is because I don't buy into Zach Wilson just yet, and I don't really buy into Miami just yet. And that's why I have New England there. Now, Mac Jones to me is sort of again, he's a system guy. He's a product of a system. He was that way at Alabama. Now he's that way here at down in Foxborough or up in Foxborough. He's a system guy. I mean, he has a beautiful touch on the ball. He can make a lot of these different throws. But to me, he just seems like a system guy. right? He seems like just a system dude, which is fine. And there's nothing wrong with being a system quarterback, by the way, right? Like that's a reason why Patrick Mahomes fell so far in the draft, was because they were like, oh, like he's just a system dude. He's an air raid offense guy. And then people were like, oh, those guys can be fantastic, right? Same thing here. Do I think Mac Jones is going to be on like the level of Patrick Mahomes? Probably not. But I do think that the New England Patriots are sort of on an arc similar to what they did with Brady back in the day. But that's not really where the league is going again. And I could be wrong here, but they're sort of like, okay, we're going to run the football, pound the rock. That's why they drafted Cole Strange, who was not a strange pick. He was actually a really good athletic pick at guard, but just not really what they were looking for. They were looking for, like, the offensive line was already really good last year. So to me, I think they should have went wide receiver, but it's whatever. It's Bill Belichick, and everyone, whatever Bill Belichick does, even if it's stupid, people are always sort of, riding his coattails about it. But either way, I think they're going to come in second just because of their roster from top to bottom. They're built really well. And Mac Jones just doesn't screw things up. So that's good. Again, number 3, I have the Jets, just because, again, I shouldn't say I'm not bought in. That's probably not the best way to put it. But for me, I look at Zach Wilson and I'm like, his style of play is very interesting, right? And I think he's just not the right, like, I like Mo Salah, not Mo Salah, damn, watching too much soccer. Robert Saleh is a defensive guy, right? And he brings in Matt LaFleur's brother, I believe, to run, Robert Saleh is a defensive guy, brings in Matt LaFleur to run the offense. So that's a good dynamic to have, but at the same time, it's like you need somebody that's, that's not really going to make a whole lot of mistakes on defense, right? Or not going to make a whole lot of mistakes on offense, so that you can, do your thing on defense. But Zach Wilson's not that guy. He's a gunslinger, right? Like, he's a gunslinger. He's a guy that really needs some reining in at times. But the thing is he has the talent to sling it. He has the talent to do that shit, right? Because he's so good at throwing the ball off platform, throwing the ball while running, throwing the ball, he's just so good at throwing the football in general, that he can afford to be a gunslinger. But I don't know. I think that there's something off about the Jets, thing. I don't know what it is. I can't pinpoint it, but I just think that there's something that's a little bit off about the Jets, to be honest with you. I don't know. It's weird to me. It feels weird. It feels like a little weird dynamic there. But another thing that feels weird is Miami, right? Miami, I have them coming in last in the division, even though they added the Cheetah, Tyreek Hill. Even though they added him, I still don't. I don't know. It's funky, right? Like, a lot of this stuff, like, people. All right, so if you just take it back to like a couple of years ago, right? Like, when I really started to get in the ball, like 2016, 2017, you could have probably like 2015, actually, 2015, 2016, you could have a quarterback that wasn't that good, right? Like, you could have a quarterback that, or I shouldn't say isn't that good, but you could have a quarterback that is like, he's like, that's it. He just, you can have an quarterback, right? And build a roster around him and still be good, right? And even now, like with Tennessee, you can have an quarterback and build a roster around him and still compete. But now teams feel like they have to have these world beater quarterbacks. You know what I mean? They feel like they have to have these crazy talented, Brett Favre-esque kind of guys to be competitive in the league. And if they don't have that, they immediately want to drop them and draft the next one. And so it's like, listen, guys, there's a couple of those guys that come around in the in like football decades. There's only one or two guys that come around like a Mahomes, that come around like a Josh Allen, right? There's only a few guys that come around like that, right? Tom Brady, Dan Marino, Brett Favre. There's only a few guys like that. So if you're a team that doesn't have that, we've sort of lost the do what you can with what you have, kind of thing. You know, we've lost that, and every general manager wants the next this or the next that. And it sort of reflects that in Miami, where it's like Tua is a very accurate quarterback. He's a lefty. You know, he's a really smart player, but people don't buy into it because he doesn't have this crazy big arm. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. People don't buy into him because they don't look like the other guys that are doing well, you know? And that was sort of the beauty of Tom Brady, right? Where it was like Tom he just didn't even move, right? Like even now, Tom Brady doesn't move out of the pocket at all. You know, he just stands in there, ball comes out super quick. He doesn't play like these other guys. He doesn't play like a Lamar. He doesn't play like, you know, everyone else. So people is reluctant to buy in, but they buy into Tom Brady because of who he is. But other than that, like if you're just a pocket passer, teams aren't really buying in like that, you know. And that's kind of how I feel about Tua, where he's more of a pocket passer, more of he almost reminds me of like a Ken Stabler, right? Where he's just going to stand in the pocket and he can pick you off with a bunch of these short throws. And then that's fine. You know, Ken won a lot of games, right, with the Raiders, but people just haven't bought into it. I don't know. I think it's weird. I think people are just looking for this crazy quarterback to come along and save their franchise, which ultimately probably isn't going to happen, right? So that's my little spiel on that. And then we're going to go from the AFC West to the AFC East to the AFC West, and we're going to talk about the toughest division in football. Yeah, I said it, and that's going to be AFC West, and I have the Denver Broncos winning it. You're going to say, well, why? Why don't you, you know, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he is, but the Broncos are I just like the Broncos, man. I think they're well put together. I think Russell Wilson is one of the few guys that really can compete with Patrick Mahomes if we're going throw by throw, right? Him and Josh Allen, right? But I think Denver's going to win because, and mind you, I'm not talking like Denver's going to win 14 games and Kansas City's going to win 7. I'm talking like it's probably going to be a 14 win team versus like a 13 win team and who gets in, right? Kind of thing. So that's really what I'm looking at. But to be honest with you, I have Denver winning it by a game just because I trust Russell Wilson to win a game, right? A game, just a serious game. I trust Russell Wilson to win that game. Also, I think they're just their roster. You know, like they have studs really everywhere on that team. They have a stud pass rusher. They have a stud offensive lineman. They have a stud, like everywhere they have studs, right? Patrick Surtain, like, and then the wide receiving core is stupid. Like it's KJ Hamler, who's KJ Hamler, who's your speed guy. And then, you know, Jerry Jeudy, who can just route you up. And then Cortland Sutton, who's your 50-50 ball, throw it up and he'll go get it. Like they have a multifaceted, multiple purpose team, or wide receiving core that can go and do that. So I like Denver to win, and they can run the ball on top of that. So I like Denver to win. I think Kansas City's going to come number 2, you know, just because, Kansas City's nuts, right? But arguably, Kansas City's probably going to I think they're going to take one step back. And the reason I say that is because Juju Smith-Schuster is not like a burner. He's more of a route runner. And I think it may take a little bit of time for them to sort of get acclimated to game speed, you know, and so on and so forth. And now it's like teams aren't really worried about the way that they used to, you know, play against Patrick Mahomes was really the way that they had to shut down Tyreek Hill, which was they would just say, we're gonna play way off, we're gonna play shell coverage, and we're gonna dare you to throw it underneath. Now they're not really gonna have to do that. You know what I'm saying? They're not really gonna have to, like, they can come up and they can press, you know, especially if you're Denver, I can come up and I can press a Juju Smith-Schuster if I have Patrick Surtain. right? I can press him. I can press, I can even chip a guy like Travis Kelce or whatever. And in a lot of ways, them playing the shell coverage allowed Travis Kelce to shine, right? Because everyone's all so far back, they're just dumping underneath the Kelce, and he's a tank, right? I mean, the dude catches the ball, he can run, and he can run over you, right? So, to me, I think it's going to take some adjusting to, and I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back in the first couple of weeks. I don't think that they're going to be like this awful team, but I think it's just going to take some time getting adjusted to, with Andy Reid and all that. And now it's a little bit of a different approach now, than it was, where it was like, okay, we're just going to run shallow crossers or 4 verticals, and Patrick's going to throw it to the open guy, or he's just going to throw it deep and they're going to outrun everybody. So to me, I think missing Tyreek Hill is going to impact them a little bit more than people think. So I got Kansas City number 2. Number 3, I have the Chargers. God, I hate having to like talk about this because all these teams are stupid, right? Like I hate having to like pick, but the Chargers now, they got Khalil Mack and they have Joey Bosa. Shit, dude. I mean, what are you going to do with that? Like, damn, and they have Justin Herbert, who was rookie of the year a few years ago. Beat Patrick Mahomes, head to head in the beginning of the season. And then unfortunately, because the AFC is so stacked, they missed out on an opportunity to go to the playoffs. But I don't know, man. I can't, bro. It's crazy. I mean, that division is going to be an absolute. It's going to be a slaughterhouse, bro. It's like they are going to be killing each other, and they're just going to be able to go into like. You ever see like the picture with the Grim Reaper, where he's like going from door to door and there's like little blood stains and shit coming out? That's what it's going to be like. Like there's going to be but 4 of them, right? So it's going to be a bloodbath with all of them in one room, and then they're just going to go to the other divisions, and they're just going to slay whoever's in those divisions, in my opinion. And then last is the Raiders. I think the Raiders have overall. I think the Raiders now probably have the best wide receiver in that division, in Devontae Adams. Now that Tyreek Hill isn't there, they have the best receiver there. They have a really, really good pass rush now that Chandler Jones is a Raider. So, I do not want to be in that division. I can only base all this off of quarterback play, with the one exception being Denver with their overall roster, because Kansas City really doesn't have a marquee corner. The Chargers do have a marquee corner, and the Raiders, 3 of their first-round picks aren't even there anymore, right? So, you know what I mean? Just based off of a complete roster, Denver's got it by literally an inch. I'm not saying that Denver's going to blow anybody out, but Denver's got it by an inch just by drafting well and becoming like this free agent destination. So, that's going to be a rough division, and I can't wait. Every single one of those games should be nationally televised. I swear, it should be. So that's the AFC West. Those are my predictions. The AFC North, it's getting a little long. Jeez. The AFC North. Hold on. Let me get some water real quick, because I'm dying. So the AFC North. This goes without saying. Cincinnati is probably going to win that division. Finish first in the division. I think Baltimore is second, because they really got railroaded last year because what they really like to do, they couldn't do. They lost all their running backs. So now they're going to come back. I think they're going to be a little bit better. But Cincinnati with Joe Burrow and now with that revamped offensive line, I think Cincinnati is going to be the team to beat in the AFC for a bit. Then I have Cleveland at 3. And the reason I have Cleveland at 3 and not 2 is because there's like speculation about the suspension that's going to be handed down for Deshaun Watson. Obviously, with his lawsuits that are going on, 20 plus women have came out and accused him of, sexual assault. But, there's a rumor that he may be suspended for the season. He may be suspended for 8 games. And if they do that, then there could be a situation where, say, 8 games in, that's a lot of games. That's almost half the season. So, he's going to come in midway through the season and sort of shake things up. I don't know. I don't think functionally, if they didn't suspend him at all, which I don't really think that that's going to happen, but who knows? If they didn't suspend him at all, I'd probably put him at second, because Deshaun Watson to me is that good of a quarterback. A lot of people will forget him because he didn't play last year, but he's in like the ballpark of the Josh Allens and the Mahomes and he's and that young rising star quarterback, like young studs. He's in that. Joe Burrow, like he's in that class. But again, just because he didn't play last year because of all this stuff going on, people are going to forget that. But yeah, I have Cleveland, and they have a really good, roster. I think Cleveland is going to be third, maybe second, depending on what's going to happen. Maybe by next month we'll know. When I do this again, we'll know what the situation is, have a bit more clarity on that. But as it stands right now, I'm going to leave Cleveland at 3. And then last, I have Pittsburgh, because they're going to have a starting rookie. Most likely they're going to have a starting rookie. I don't think Mitch Trubisky is going to be a starter. I mean, he could be, but I think when you draft a guy, when you draft Kenny Pickett, a hometown dude, usually they end up starting. They don't waste any time starting them. And Mitch Trubisky is a good, solid, he's a backup guy. Played in Buffalo last year. He can come in, make sure the ship is sort of corrected. But yeah, man, I think that Kenny Pickett's going to start, and it usually doesn't end up well when rookies start for the first time. You usually got to give them a year or 2 to really iron everything out. So I have Pittsburgh finishing last. And then the AFC South, wrapping up the AFC and all its divisions. I have Tennessee finishing first. I have them winning, simply because I think Derrick Henry's great. They did trade A.J. Brown to the Eagles, but I mean, Treylon Burks is a monster. He's a monster. He was compared to A.J. Brown pretty much the entire draft process. So I have the Tennessee Titans winning that. Indianapolis probably going to come second because Matt Ryan is very average sometimes. Jacksonville is going to come third, I believe. I don't think Jacksonville is going to win the division, but I think that they're going to have a better, we talk about Doug Peterson. He's a very good developer of talent at the quarterback position. He's extremely, extremely, extremely good at. He was a quarterback. He's good at sort of catering to them in a lot of ways. So I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to play a lot better, but I do think that this Jacksonville team does still have a lot to be desired in some spaces, namely offensive line. That's always one we're going to go to. So, and then last is Houston. Davis Mills, I really didn't watch him play that much, but Houston always seems to find a way to lose, so I'm not really too concerned with them having this miracle Cinderella run. And now that I say that, it'll probably happen, but that is going to be a wrap of the AFC, thus bringing my league standings to an end. It was a long one. It was a long one. So maybe next time it'll just be an episode of me talking about that, maybe getting a little bit more in depth and doing some more research. But that's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you guys would like to hear me talk about anything in specific, let me know. I tried to do it last time. Didn't really get a whole lot of messages, but we'll see. Right, I'll post this up and we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to be going to the celebrity so far. Hopefully, if I don't get sick because I got exposed. If I'm okay tomorrow, then Saturday, hopefully, I'll be going to Devontae Smith celebrity softball game here in the Lehigh Valley. I live like 10 minutes away from Coca-Cola Stadium, so I'm really excited about that. And I got like field level seats, so I'll be able to sort of see them and everything, and I'll document that. I'll put that on the stories and everything. So I know Miles Sanders is going to be there. I know Darius Slay, obviously Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, all those guys are going to be there. So I'm super excited. I'm super hype. And hopefully I get some good footage for you guys if I'm not sick. But if I am, then unfortunately I'll have to chalk that up to an L and give away the tickets. But either way, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys. If there's anything that you would like to see in the future, let me know. As always, follow on Instagram, follow on YouTube, follow on anywhere that you get your podcast, follow and subscribe. Rate, let us know how we're doing. Let me know how I'm doing. But I'll talk to you guys later. Deuce, deuce.